Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Spilling Tea with the G's. Again, I am Nick Giallourakis, along with my brother Steve Giallourakis. Steve, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
So this is our final episode of our first season, episode 10. And by popular demand, we decided to invite our mother to this conversation. Angie, our co-founder, I guess you could say, of the Stephen G Fund and the co-founder of Elephants and Tea. So Angie, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
So it's a Giallourakis affair. I guess we're all G's, right? We're all Giallourakises, so this just kind of fits. So I know a lot of people like to refer to Angie as Momma G, thanks to our weekly support groups on Friday at 5:30 Eastern. So always hilarious to get people to call. We call Mom Angie way too much, probably than most kids should with their parents, but that's just life with cancer. Things change. So Mom, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. How's it going? How's it going living with Steve, actually, again?
So you're asking me how things are going with Steve living with me? Us? Well, it's always an adventure having a son return home. Life is a little more chaotic, unpredictable, joyful, crazy. I have learned to take it one day at a time.
I think
Oh,
I should
exaggerations. It's not that bad.
I think I should add to Steve moved home because he just had a surgery a couple weeks ago, which he's doing great from. Right, Steve? I'll let you rebuttal, but I figured to give some context of why you moved back home right now.
Oh, and the whole thing called COVID that's going on right now.
The global pandemic? My bad. Sorry, Steve, any rebuttals to Mom?
Living with her, I take it one day at a time.
Oh, good. So again, Mom, thanks for joining us today. For those that are familiar with our program here, our podcast, videocast, we like to talk about different things going on in the AYA cancer community and people that are doing great things for the community. Obviously, you are one of those people. So we wanted to invite you on, put a face to the name for people that don't know you, but have heard of you now through either myself or Steve or the stuff that we've been doing with Elephants and Tea. So just to kind of start things off, I think a lot of the people that do follow are familiar with who you are and some of the things you do, but you've been an advocate. You've been very involved with the AYA community since Steve was diagnosed back at 15 years old, which is, I guess, technically 15 years now that Steve's officially 30. Woo! So 14 years, Steve.
14 years. 14 and a half years.
14 and a half years. Sorry, I rounded up. So, Mom, I guess let's just kind of start there. Why don't you give people some information, some background on all the things that you've been doing, why you do what you do, even though I think it's obvious. I think it's always still good to hear it directly from that individual.
Thanks, Nick. Well, as you folks know, I started the Stephen G. AYA Cancer Research Fund after Stephen's second cancer, which was secondary AML. And I guess it was kind of like almost like a knee-jerk response where I just felt so overwhelmed by the reality that my son was suffering again. And in addition to that, we had lost a few close friends along the way that we had met in the hospital during Steve's treatment. And those two things just triggered so many intense emotions in me. I wanted to let people know that adolescents and young adults get cancer and that the cancers that they get are often the most difficult to treat and cure. I also wanted to get the word out as an advocate that there wasn't enough research, basically because there wasn't any research since the 1970s, to change how we treat cancer in adolescents and young adults. Cancers like Steve's first cancer, osteosarcoma, is a very difficult cancer to treat. So those two things were my primary focus. And I kept telling the researchers, if I had $1 million, I would just hand it to you and have you do work. But we're a small and humble group, and I just used my skill set as a former college professor, rehab counselor, and researcher and knew that if I followed the science, followed my own training, that I could speak up and at least get my foot in the door and be heard, in politics, talking to my legislators about what needs to happen. So that was the first aspect of the Stephen G. Fund. Would you like me to continue? Okay.
Yes, please. Go right ahead.
Okay. So with that aspect, I started attending conferences because I wanted to learn. The best way for a person to learn more about a subject is to reach out and talk to the people who are directly affected by their disease, the stakeholders, talk to the patients, talk to the caregivers, talk to the doctors. And that's what I did. And I read the literature and learned as much as I possibly could so that if someone had a question, I could answer it. What I also learned in my journey with my son's cancer and with the AYA community is that there was a need to look at quality of life. I saw that people that were surviving cancer had secondary effects, not only secondary cancers, but health issues. So I wanted to look at how can I, as a person who has a nonprofit, provide some type of education and support about wellness. What can we do to help improve a person's quality of life, either while they're in treatment or after treatment? So I decided to, with the help of my board, created a little program called the Be Calm, Stay Strong Wellness Program. With that, we created a wellness kit that we sent off to patients that were in treatment. And then we also funded things like Smoothie Day at our local hospital here in Cleveland, Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. And it's been so well received that I'm hoping that someday we'll be able to do that in other hospitals as well. The wellness kit is really research-based. It's all about complementary approaches, not alternative, but complementary things to go along with the traditional treatments, like relaxation techniques, exercise, aromatherapy, reading about your illness, finding ways to feel better about yourself, activities that help the individual while they're stuck in the hospital to experience some peace and calm within themselves. Did I leave anything out?
I think that's the gist of most of it. So thank you for giving the rundown. For you, Mom, the one question I have for someone, two questions here. First off, for someone that is looking to start their own advocacy stuff, right? Any advice that you would give to that person? I realize you kind of did a great job of just talking about the beginnings and why you did it. Any, I guess, words of wisdom or advice you would give to someone that would want to start their own organization? Maybe not even organization, but just their own journey with advocacy.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it's one thing to want to start your own nonprofit. That's like a whole other discussion that we won't.
We don't have time for today. Yeah, right.
But if you want to advocate, if you want to get involved, look and see what groups are currently out there that have mission statements that tie into what your goals are. The parents that I have met in the last 12 years are often people that have either lost a child to cancer or a teenager or a young adult, or have someone in treatment. Oftentimes the goal is to get a cure, okay? Well, how do you do that? Well, you have to learn about the research, you have to learn about who's making the decisions, so you have to do a little homework, but don't be afraid to ask questions of other people who are currently involved in advocacy work. Is that a starting point for you, Nick?
No, that's perfect, thank you.
Sure.
From the stuff with the Stephen G. Fund, Mom, what have you found the most enjoyable part of it?
Well, quite frankly, the most enjoyable part is meeting people. I love to talk with people. I do volunteer or have volunteered as a parent mentor at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital, and that has been such a gratifying experience on so many levels, to meet parents who are in the throes of their child's illness, and also traveling to stupid cancer conferences and meeting AYAs like my own son, Steve, who are going through it, being able to send young adults to stupid cancer and traveling with them. If I can just give Stupid Cancer a plug, they do such a great job working with the AYAs and letting them know that they're not alone. It's such a great opportunity. And I went by myself the first time and looked around and said, this is a really cool opportunity for young adults who are looking to meet other people who have had similar experiences. What else?
Steve, you want to add something to that?
Not yet. No, just.
No, good. All right, cool. Sorry, my bad. Thought you wanted to say something. No, that's great. You know, for when you started doing the parent mentoring stuff, Mom, was that difficult to do? Did it bring up any past, feelings and emotions, I guess, for you?
You know, that's a really good question, because one of the things that people need to be mindful of when they're thinking about becoming a parent mentor, they first need to really separate themselves. There has to be a time period between the time that your child was diagnosed, treated, and when you become a parent mentor. And I found that I needed many years. It's such an emotional experience to reach out to someone and let them know that they're not alone, from a parent perspective. And then to try to be objective and provide just a little TLC. As a parent mentor, I'm not there to provide therapy. I'm there simply to let them know they're not alone, that peer-to-peer conversation, perhaps even some information about the hospital, how to access more information. It's really an important role. It's a narrow focus in terms of what you provide. I did realize early on when I first started doing it that, there was a little emotional trigger there, like you mentioned, Nick, but I had to back off a little bit. And then I went back into it after a year or two. It's a very emotional thing. And I really don't know of any parent who the first time they return to an oncology floor don't have some kind of an emotional response that's not very positive.
Yeah, I can imagine that talking to parents would be a trigger. Because I know for me, it took me a little while to talk to patients about all of this stuff. So obviously you're a very, very smart person, and you went into this, you didn't rush into this process. But in the last 12 years of you being an advocate and running, the Stephen G Foundation, what has surprised you the most? Like, what is something that you just didn't expect, I guess, from a knowledge standpoint or from a function of an AY, of a nonprofit standpoint?
Well,
I throw the curveball questions, Mom. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
I throw the curveball questions. That's my job.
Well, actually, it's a good question. First of all, I have to say the resilience of people. People are very resilient. We, meaning any of us in this call here, know that when you're going through such a traumatic experience, initially you wonder if you're going to get through it. And to know that you can get through it. It's not an easy experience, but you do get through it. People are very resilient. The other thing is that the community of the people in the AYA community are just awesome people. They're so dedicated. There's not a competitive spirit, it's a spirit of collaboration, and that just warmed my heart so much. As far as unexpected, I don't know, maybe just because my past life as a rehab counselor and seeing people with physical disabilities and emotional disabilities, I know that life is not a bowl of cherries. Life throws you curveballs, but as a mother of a son who was diagnosed with cancer at 15, that was the greatest shock of my life. And then dealing with it required me to, just be strong emotionally, accept what was going on, and then take it one day at a time.
And that kind of leads into my next question there. I wasn't even thinking about it, but you brought up something there. You used to be a counselor in the past. So obviously cancer wasn't what spurred you into helping people from a marginalized lifestyle. So what, I guess, you've always been advocating for people, even before cancer and everything else. Is that just you, or is there anything else in your life that kind of spurred that, that driving force to take care of people, or is it just who you are?
I think it's who I am. I've always loved being a helper, and that's kind of the simplified definition of a person like myself. I'm a helper. I like helping people. I do feel the injustices. I'm empathetic. I'm not perfect. That is for sure. So let me just clarify that for a moment here. I am far from perfect. And the thing is that when a person becomes a counselor, you are trained to be ethical and centered on the individual that you're working with, and provide whatever you are capable of providing, and not to make promises to people that you can't keep. So it's a standard that I have created for myself. I guess it's my mantra, to be ethical in my work. So, don't make promises you can't keep. Even in advocacy work, we can't, if I could cure cancer, I would do it in a heartbeat, but I know I can't. So what can I do? So I had to own up also to what I can do as an individual advocate.
Cool.
Well said on all of that. Yeah, so many thoughts there, but that was awesome. Thank you, Mom. And great questions on that, Steve. Steve, anything else you wanted to ask Mom before we dive into her elephant in the room?
Well, is there, because as someone who currently lives with you and also knows you very, very well, you're always doing about 6,000 things. You never take a break. So I guess, what is something that you are trying to learn now that you could implement later for whoever, whether it's AYAs or anybody, because I know you're always learning things. So
I started studying the art of meditation and yoga, primarily as a means of helping myself and others to learn to accept their situation, but also to feel better physically. I'm oversimplifying my language here. It's about, again, going back to that whole idea of wellness. What can a person do for themselves to improve their quality of life? If someone's in a situation where they're in pain because of their treatment, is there anything we can do to that person to help them? Sometimes it's not about me providing the service as much as it is saying, hey, look into acupuncture, or look into massage therapy, or, different aspects of complementary medicine as a way of improving quality of life. I really believe in that part of the treatment process. I love the doctors, I respect them completely, but they do not have the time to provide complementary treatments. And I know that hospitals today are doing more with that because they've seen the research, they've seen the evidence of certain types of complementary practices being helpful for the patient as well as the caregiver. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Cool. And to that point, Mom, as well, since you just talked about the meditation stuff, I know you have led a class as part of that Mind, Body, and Soul series we did with Lakota Loft and Dear Jack.
Mhm.
And you are kind enough, by popular demand with our audience, going to be leading a new meditation class. So I guess before we even get into the elephant in the room question, let's touch on that. Do you want to tell folks a little bit about what you are going to be doing as part of a four-part meditation series?
Sure. So the type of meditation I'll be doing is a Yoga Nidra style meditation, which is a meditation that helps the person become aware of their physical body and their emotional body and their environment, to tune in, and then to help them learn how to tune into discomforts, to tune into things that make them feel good, and how what is their emotional response as well as their physical response. To learn the positive aspects of breathing and how many different styles of breathing there are as an intervention to calm the mind and the soul down a little bit. This is not a religion. This is secular in nature. That's one thing I like to stress to people. And I also insert from time to time, oh goodness, I lost the word.
You're just so zen, you can't think about it.
I know, Zen. I offer like a little journey within the meditation, to help maybe take the people on a little trip, so to speak. Like a waterfall, walking through a waterfall, things like that, as a way to kind of take the mind somewhere else. And as soon as I think of that word, I'll bring it back.
And I think to your point, Mom, with that and some other complementary wellness stuff that you were just talking about, it's amazing how just doing that Mind, Body, and Soul series, the feedback we got from people that have never meditated before, or have done yoga a certain way before, or writing a certain way before, that how people felt just kind of refreshed. I know specifically from the meditation side, I know I fell asleep, and I'm not a cancer survivor, patient, or anything in between, just being a sibling and a new father and everything else, of how it just shows you. I think you mentioned, it's like, if you fall asleep, that's okay. It's your body telling you you need to rest. So I just think it's really cool that people were reacted very positively to this type of approach, because it did force them to relax in a positive way and recharge. And it really doesn't take that much time out of someone's day to do so.
No, it doesn't take much time out of your day. I mean, you can be sitting at your computer for a moment and close your eyes and practice some deep breathing. Put your feet in a comfortable spot on a little pillow underneath your feet, or a couple stacks of books underneath your feet. And just listen to some music, do some breathing. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe you can't lay down. Some people can't lay down, for whatever reason, physically. So they have to sit in a chair. So, we work with people like that as well to find that comfortable position that works best for them. I wanted to make a clarification too. When I add visualizations to a meditation, it's that journey to another place, like a waterfall or, flowers, something that brings a sense of peace to people.
Cool. Very cool.
Can I add one more thing?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So one of the things is, if you continue to fall asleep, I do like telling people this, then don't lay on the floor, sit up, if you can, if you really want to experience the meditation, but you may just have to go to sleep and get some rest. So.
I fell asleep in my computer chair. I'm guilty. It's cool. I was like right here. I was in the class, but so it was great. It's fantastic. All right, cool. So thank you, Mom, for all those details on the meditation side, the wellness side, and then also the whole Stephen G side of things, right? So for those that are listening to this and that are new, we always ask our guests what they feel their elephant in the room is, because with elephants and tea, that's our tagline. Cancer is the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, and tea is the relief conversation can provide. So with that said, Mom, what do you consider your elephant in the room when it comes to cancer or the AYA cancer community in general?
So the elephant in the room is the lack of collaboration, even though I said there was collaboration, the fact that in each hospital system, AYA is defined differently, is treated differently, so that people coming in for the first time may not get the same experience as another person at another hospital. People come from overseas to the United States to be treated, and they're thinking they're going to have X type of an experience. I realize it's beyond the medical, and it goes into the psychosocial piece as well. But it's really important to see the AYA community be treated more inclusively, so that regardless of what hospital you go to, you can expect certain things, like being around people of your own age, psychosocial treatment, being provided, which is also another elephant in my room, that there's a lack of funding for psychosocial treatment. So, that continuity of services for AYAs, the need for more psychosocial support, because it's organizations like our organization, Elephants in Tea, and the Stephen G. Fund, that provide more psychosocial support, and we kind of pick up where the hospitals left off. So,
right. And I think to that point, the big eye opener for me when it comes to the hospital settings was us exhibiting at ASCO last year, and the amount of oncologists that had walked by us, and even researchers as well, that had no idea what AYA even was. And that was it took me back a little bit, but also recognizing that how much more work needs to be done. And I think what you said hits it on the head, that it does vary from hospital to hospital, right? You have places like Rainbow and Babies here in Cleveland that does focus a lot on the AYA side of things. You have hospitals like MD Anderson that does a lot of AYA stuff. But even then, some of these hospitals too that we know, a lot of the AYA programs are more on the pediatric side than they are on the adult side. Mm-hmm. And you see that as well. And that is concerning, right? When you see someone that is 30 years old, 25 years old, that is diagnosed and treated as an adult, as they should be, but mm-hmm. they have no idea that there's even an AYA program at that hospital. Mm-hmm. And where that communication falls through the cracks, that's, we obviously don't work in the hospital, so we could speculate from our experiences, but I won't do that on here. Go ahead, Mom, you were going to add something else?
Yeah, there is one more thing. When you ask about an elephant in the room, there are like a million elephants, but
the last video cast we had, someone said, I have a herd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think I have a herd too. Like, oh, what about this? I think racial disparities in medicine is huge. And part of my work as a parent mentor, I witnessed racial disparity among, families of color, people from other countries of color, trying to help them understand all that's at stake, and helping people look for information on the computer because they don't have one at home. That's huge. We all rely on our computers for information. And yet, if you don't have one, how do you look up a clinical trial for your child's disability, your child's illness? And that's just like one minuscule aspect of what racial disparity means. So there's a lot, again, that's a whole other session, but racial disparity is definitely an elephant in the room for all cancers, not just AYA.
Right, for sure. And I think I actually saw what was meant to be a funny post, I think at first on Facebook or Instagram, but it had a serious tone to it, because the example was someone applied for a job, I think it was as a janitor for example, and the principal at the school or something said, hey, great, email me your resume, or I'll email you this. And that person's like, I don't have a computer to email or whatever. And they wouldn't hire that person. And because of it, they weren't going to hire that person because of it. So,
Yeah.
there are certain things that, a lot of people don't think about. And this is a perfect example here of, like you said, how do you know about a clinical trial if people don't have the ability to access it when that's the only way they can access it?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, that could be a whole nother conversation. It will be, but go ahead.
I know you don't have a lot of time, we're going to be
No,
wrapping
it's
this up
fine.
soon, but, it also speaks to, what kind of questions to ask,
Right.
and maybe we're going to get to that at some point, but, as a caregiver and being educated, I'm not afraid to ask questions, but I know people that are afraid to ask questions, and they're embarrassed to ask questions, and they're intimidated by the doctor because they're asking questions. And that is part of the disparity issue as well.
Right.
Well, and that's, back to the racial disparities issue, that's something that we've talked about, me and you, Mom, and how to fix that or how to address that issue for a long time. And having been to many events and seeing them as decidedly monochromatic, and how do you, fix these issues? Because obviously when people they get cancer, it affects everybody. But then to your second question there, your second statement about, being afraid to ask doctors questions. I've been dealing with this for 14 years, and doctors still question my knowledge about my stuff. And if they're going to question me, how is someone who, has been diagnosed for the first time know how to ask something? And that's a huge issue, being taken seriously by your doctor, your concerns being taken seriously, and all facets of medical treatment, not just cancer. And that's something I know that we've, how do you address that? How do you work with residents to understand that from a very early point on in their career, not trying to teach an old dog new tricks later on? They need to learn it from the beginning. But again, we could spend the whole time going on to that kind of stuff.
So, and I guess to kind of, touch base on your first elephant in the room again, Mom and Steve, you kind of just talked about it a little bit, but is there anything that comes to mind, Mom, from an advice standpoint that you would give to these hospitals? And I recognize that this is a much deeper conversation, but at a high level, what is there anything that comes to mind that you're like, this is something that people should look into more or consider?
Well, first of all, they need to familiarize themselves with the whole subject of AYA and what that means for patients from the patient perspective, and also the research on social support and how social support provides includes and improves quality of life. And we know that research has shown that quality of life may or may not help a person survive their cancer. Okay, we don't know the answer to that off the top of our heads, that's for sure. But quality of life will improve the experience. And that is huge, okay? So I think that when funding is an issue and hospitals are rewarded for good research, which they should be, but there's a lack of information and research that is being funded when it comes to social support. And unfortunately, it's either not a priority because administrators don't see it as such, or there's lack of funding. The hospital just doesn't have the money to even look at that. There's all kinds of issues. The definition of the disease, it just depends on the hospital culture and environment. I am sure that everyone is well-intentioned. That's not the issue, but it's more about, how do we get that word out that AYA is more than just identifying a disease and working to cure it the best way we can. There's more to it than that. The other piece of that is knowing that AYA cancers are the most difficult to cure, are some of the most difficult cancers to cure, that there hasn't been any new research in a really long time. I know there's been some improvements in leukemias, things like that. But again, the osteosarcomas that Steve had, very little change. I know they're working really hard, and some people that we know and love that are researchers are doing an awesome job at trying to find better ways to treat those cancers and cure them. But again, when we meet people and they feel alone with their experience and they don't feel that they're part of anything during this treatment, how can that possibly be helpful to them as far as their quality of life is concerned?
Yeah.
Well said. Go ahead, Steve.
No, that was it.
Cool. No, thank you, Mom. I think that was spot on. I don't think either of us could have said that any better. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your elephant in the room and answering those questions that we throw at you as you found out your youngest son likes to throw curveballs. But any other curveballs, Steve, you want to throw Mom's way?
I'm just going to embarrass her for a second here. And just so everybody knows, a year and a half ago, our mother was awarded the Living Angel Award by the American Cancer Society.
So superstar. Yes.
Well, can I just say that, you know, there are a lot of living angels out there, and there are a lot of good people out there doing hard work that aren't being recognized. And anyone who's involved in this community is an angel as far as I'm concerned. So short of me crying, that's what I want to say. And can I just add one more thing? You might as well say pull my ears. That, you know, if you are a parent of a cancer patient or a loved one, don't be afraid to ask questions. Get someone to come with you when you go to appointments. Bring a friend along if you don't have a family member that can do so. Get somebody to come in and record the session if possible. What else did I want to say? Just do those things for yourself. And, you know, and last but not least, just if you can, you know, take care of yourself and try to take it one day at a time.
Cool. Thank you, Mom. And I think you put a spot on. So go ahead, Steve. You wanted to add something else?
You know, on that same vein, because obviously, you know, you are a parent and I mean, beyond it being an advocate, you're a parent of a cancer patient and a survivor. And you mentioned they're taking people with you and recording. And for those of you who haven't heard of it yet, and I figured I would throw this out there right now, just because it's been a wonderful resource for me this time around through my third and my fourth cancer treatment, is an application called Abridge. It is it's a recording application you take with you your doctor's appointments, and it does work over telecommunication. If you put your phone next to your speaker and you hit record, it'll record the whole conversation, and then afterwards it sends it off to their machine learning software, and it'll pick out all the important medical terms, and it's an audio, and then it will send it back to you so you can search through your audio recording by word, and it also will give you descriptions of those medical words as well. So in case you don't understand something, or in case, you know, your brain is blown away by finding out you have cancer, or, you know, other things, that, you know, it helps you remember those important details, which if you're advocating for yourself, I know my mother can attest to, is very important to have those accurate details down somewhere. So just wanted to let everybody know about that. It's wonderful. I got to use it this year, and it's really a help. So.
And it's their website's abridge.com, and they're an app, like Steve said, you can find it. So they're a supporter of ours too. So check them out. They're wonderful. And know this was just us talking about them. So this was not something they expected us to say today. So we like to talk about organizations that we believe in. And obviously, as you heard from Steve, he believes in them. So check them out. Really cool app. And I think to kind of circle back with Mom, right? And ask questions. With everything that we just said, people should not be afraid to ask questions, caregiver or otherwise. I think that's how you understand more of what's going on from a treatment standpoint, from a plan standpoint, all the above, right? Mm-hmm. So ask questions, people. I think that's the big takeaway with all this.
And one thing I will add to that, Nick, there is, as a patient, you have the right to ask questions. You have the right to the information about your treatment, about your health. And if you don't think your doctor is giving you the time, then talk to the nurse practitioner, talk to the nurse, let them know that, because they will make sure that you do have someone who is willing to explain why you're being treated this way, why you're getting these chemicals, why you're getting this radiation, these surgeries. Because if you can't answer those questions before you start those things, then they have not given you the information that you need for your treatment. And that's something that you deserve as a patient and as a family member. So.
Agreed. Well said. All righty. Well, hey, Mom, thank you again so much for joining us on our last episode of the first season. We got 10 episodes in. Look at that. So again, honored to have you on with us. Again, Momma G, with our last episode of the season. So as a reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube page. We are going to make all of these also available on our website, so you'll be able to check that out. Any questions at all, you know how to find us on our website. Click on contact, or you can email me directly at nick@elephantsandtea.com. We're going to take a little bit of a break as far as recording more of these sessions. We'll be back in the fall with the whole slew of new people. We've already gotten some requests from some folks that they want to be on the spilling tea with us, and I think we've got some really fun and cool topics for season 2 coming up. So stay tuned, be on the lookout for that as we approach the September timeframe, most likely is what we're looking at. But we're going to take a break for about a month and a half from recording these and circle back come September. So, and again, if you want to be a part of Angie's meditation class, that's going to start July 26th. We'll have a link below in the description section of this video, so please check it out. Or again, visit elephantsandtea.com for more information on that. Again, thank you, Angie, aka Mom, for joining us today. Steve, any parting thoughts from you, or do you want to say goodbye?
Well, thank you all for putting up with us this 10 episodes. It's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. And Mom, thank you so much for being on here. I know it's not always easy to deal with your 2 sons, but we really do appreciate it.
I have 3 sons, just for the record.
Yeah. He's down in Canton.
Right.
But no, thank you very much, Mom, and thank you for all you do.
Yes.
So
Thank you, guys.
All righty. Thanks, Angie, Steve. Everybody have a great and safe rest of your summer, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.